Hi there, I'm Lisa Taylor and this is Ideas on Truth. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're watching on the replay, put a hashtag replay and let me know where you're watching from. It's really fun to see all of our viewers from all over the world. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tonight I'm talking about trust. You know, it's a subject that bears repeating. I know we talk about it. It's not a new subject, but it is one that it is near and dear to my heart. I have had so many experiences where I have been in a position where I just needed to trust and I needed to just put my faith in God, in love, in truth, in the laws of the universe, the laws of spirit that are governing all the time. And when we appeal to those laws and we apply them to our lives, it's funny how things work out. Anyway, I was reminded tonight of a poem that I memorized, and I know I've shared this with you before, but I absolutely love it. Hey, Colleen. There's a poem that I memorized when I was really young. I used to memorize poems when I'd go out running. And I found it again, so now I can finally credit the woman who wrote it. Phyllis Stoddard wrote it. And I don't know if it has a title. I don't think it has a title, but it goes like this. Standing before unknown waters with trembling heart, it isn't thus that the waters part and then you step. No, you step and the waters part. And I just love that poem. It always reminds me of the scene in the Indiana Jones movie where he gets to the cliff and I think there's a voice actually talking to him and saying, step off the cliff, like into the abyss. And he's like, what? And he steps and this panel appears under his foot. And then he takes the next step and the panel appears under his foot. And, you know, how many times in our lives does that happen to us where we come to the precipice of fear and some challenge in our lives and we just have to step forward? And I heard a thing tonight, actually. I was at a service and this woman who's a Hebrew, she studies Hebrew and she's a biblical scholar, and she mentioned the story of Moses, where Moses is leading the Israelites through the Red Sea and the waters part and the Israelites go across the sea. And Moses, they're standing there at the water's edge, and Moses turns to God and says, you know, like, now what? You led us here, now what do we do? And God says, what are you asking me for? Just go forward. Like, trust that I've already got a plan, just keep going. So there's somebody in the company, and I guess this is all in Hebrew. I don't read Hebrew, but she said there's somebody in the company who dives into the water and just starts walking, and he walks into the Red Sea up to his nose, and then the waters part. And I just love that. Do we trust that there's a plan? Do we trust that God is in control? Do we trust that much that we're just about to drown and we keep going forward? The water is up to our nose and we keep walking forward, trusting that there is a solution and that there is a plan, and that we may not see it with our eyes or feel it with our senses, but there is a plan. And we can trust it and we can take that next step that would lead us into drowning and the waters part. I just love that. And there's a wall of water on the left and on the right. And somebody else at this meeting was talking about the wall of water being those things that seem so imposing, but eventually we don't really notice those anymore. We just notice the clear path in front of us and we go forward. There was an experience I had, and some of you may have heard this story before, but many years ago, I was kind of new in the career world and had started out in a position that I really did not like. It didn't really appeal to me. I tried mightily to give it my all, and I actually worked with a spiritual practitioner when I was feeling completely depressed about my career path being a dead end. And she told me, I don't want you to lift a pencil until you can do it with love. So I would sit there for like 10 minutes. I would do nothing. And I'm sure my boss loved that. I would sit there and do nothing until I could do it sincerely with love. I wouldn't do it. And so one day, and this was all kind of culminating in this one day, when I was just so distraught, and I went out at lunch in tears, and I walked around this pool and down by this fountain to eat my lunch, and was just praying and just saying, God, there's got to be more for my life than this. You've got it. Like, you've given me all of this stuff to give. Can you please show me what you want me to do? I will do anything you want me to do. I'm here to serve you. What do you want me to do? And make the answer as clear as an elephant standing on my foot. I actually said that. I was in my early 20s. Just remember that. So I was sitting there, distraught and crying. And it's like, I'll sweep floors at McDonald's if that's what you want me to do. Like, I just want to use me, God. So I hear this voice. I seriously heard a voice behind me. And I actually turned around because I thought there was somebody standing behind me. And it was just a voice. And the voice said, you're going to be in Boston for a while. And I started to argue with the angel, like, what is that? That's not an answer. That's not a career. That's not a job. What is that? And then I stopped myself and I said, no, I need to trust. I asked for an answer. I need to trust that that's my answer. It didn't really make sense to me other than the obvious. But it wasn't like this is a clear job. It wasn't like this is a shift, nothing. I get up, I think, okay, I have to trust this is my answer. I get up from where I'm sitting. I walk literally like 20 paces. And my old boss comes out from this colonnade building. And he knew I'd been struggling. And he'd gone on to another job and I had a new boss. And he comes up to me and he goes, oh, Lisa, hey, how's it going? I said, hey. He said, where are you these days? Because he knew I'd been kind of thinking about stuff. And I said, really funny you should ask, John. I just got a really clear sense that I'm going to be in Boston for a while. He said, oh, thank you. I'm so glad to hear you say that. Come upstairs. I want to offer you a job. Like that. If I hadn't gotten up, if I hadn't trusted the answer I got, even though I didn't understand it, if I hadn't trusted that that was my answer and gotten up and walked, I wouldn't have run into John. It gets better though. The story gets better. I get back to my desk and I get a phone call. As soon as I sit down, the phone rings and it's another guy in the same department. John had offered me a job in like the radio division. And I'd been sort of interested in getting into radio and TV at that point. I get a call from the radio division when I get back to my desk from the guy who's the head of the radio division saying, hey, we've got somebody going on. I know you were interested in this division. We've got somebody going on vacation for 3 weeks. Would you like to come down and try us out? We'll try you out to see if this is a good fit. So I called John and I say, John, I just got a call from Dave who wants me to come down and sub and like see if I should work there. He said, just hold off. He's going to be told today that division is being dissolved and this new big radio division is being started. And, I was going to be a part of the new division and they were all going to be coming up there. So it was like, not only did I get one job offer, I got basically 2 job offers in the same career within minutes of each other, totally out of the blue, because I trusted, because I threw myself on the sort of the altar of love and said, God, use me, use my talents, use what you've given me to give. Let me serve the bigger good, the larger picture of good. Use me, let me be fully utilized. And when we are in service, when we trust that there is a plan for us to be in service, we are led to the path to make those steps and go forward and do that. There's another quote in the Bible. Well, the one, I don't think I've said it yet. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. I wasn't leaning on my own understanding of what that was. Lisa, you'll be in Boston for a while. That didn't really make sense. Trust in love with all your heart. Trust in truth with all your heart. Trust in principle with all your heart. Trust in mind, intelligence, soul. Trust in life with all your heart. And lean not unto your own human 5 physical senses understanding. Trust that your intuition is leading you. Trust that love is leading you. Trust that when you tune into your heart, you are getting the answer. Don't go to your head, go to your heart. If I'd gone to my head, I would have sat there and cried longer and said, that's not an answer. I want to, That's what my head would have given me. But I went with my heart, and I went with trust, and I went with service, and I went with wanting to give outwardly. There was something else I wanted to share. What was it? Oh, that's what it was. There's another quote. This is also from the Bible. It's, and ye shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk ye in it, when you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. I've always loved that. And I've loved it mostly because The word is behind you. And actually, the voice for me was behind me too. But the word is behind you. It's not like the neon sign out in front of you saying, this way, pointing, The word is behind you. It forces you to trust what you're hearing. Trust that still small voice. Trust that you are being guided. And there's a need in the process of doing this to put out the false beliefs, put out the suggestions, put out of thought what would make us afraid. Put out the suggestions, put them out of thought. So when suggestions come in and I could have sat there by the fountain's edge and I could have said, I don't have a job that pays well, and I don't have a job that's going to lead me in a career, and I don't have and sort of worked myself up into a tizzy with all these fears, when listening to the truth, leaning on the truth, leaning on that sustaining infinite is what brings the blessing. And it is what counteracts the fear. It counteracts that thought, that suggestion that would lead you down that path of fear. We've talked a lot in the last couple of videos about leaning into love or leaning into fear. And Colleen actually, she did a hashtag for me on one of the comments, and I appreciated that. I didn't realize I'd been saying it a lot until Colleen pointed that out. Leaning into love, leaning into the thoughts that are you acting in trust, that are you listening to your heart, that are you listening to that still small voice. The kingdom of heaven is within us. That still small voice is the voice of truth. It is the voice of love. Listen to it. And how do we listen? Do we listen in a really noisy room? Do we listen when there's all this noise and commotion around us? You can if you're really practiced at it, but it's a lot easier to listen when you still all of that in your thought and you tune that out and tune into stillness. Tune into just sitting with yourself. If the kingdom of heaven is within us, then all the answers that we need are within us, because God's voice is within us. Our mind is God's mind. That spiritual sense that we have comes from God. It is a manifestation of the all-knowing, all-seeing, all-acting, all-wise, all-loving, and eternal mind, intelligence, God. That's the beginning of the definition of God that I grew up with. And that can be found in the book that I always quote, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. So that definition, God, the all-knowing, it's like, I'd like to align myself with the all-knowing. Why not? Why would I want to align myself with something less than that? So aligning our thought with God, aligning our thought with that kingdom of heaven within us, means get still. It means shut out the human chatter, the human mind, the human with a small m, the human chatter that's going on all the time, all those tapes playing in your head. Turn them down, turn them off, shut it down, put them on pause. Just for a moment. You can always go back to it. If you really miss it, you can always go back to it. But take the time to meditate, take the time to pray, take the time to listen. There's a lot to be said for listening. We pray, we sort of say things in rote, kind of repeat things over and over again. We sort of ask for things, but there's a lot to be said for just shutting the mouth, turning off the human mind, the chatter, and just listening for God's voice, listening for truth, listening for that still small voice that comes from your heart, and seeing what it says, because we are so busy running around, fixing stuff, doing stuff, thinking on the treadmill. And we can just be still and trust that what we need will come to us. There have been so many times when I don't have that whole picture. I know a lot of people use GPS as the example for this now. You only need the next turn. You don't need the whole answer. You don't need the big picture. You don't need the end result or the destination. You just need that next step. One step, that's all you need. Like the scene in I think it's Temple of Doom, the Indiana Jones movie. He's just taking one step at a time across that cavern. One step, and the panel appears. The whole bridge isn't there. One step, and the next panel appears. So trust enough to take one step. You step, and the waters part. Don't stand on the edge and wait for the bridge to appear or wait for the waters to part. You're going to be standing there a long time. There's a reason why boats go out from the dock when they go off on their journey. They don't stay tied to the dock. You get in the boat and you untie it so you can go. You can progress. You can move forward. You can get on with the good that you are here to do. You know, we, particularly those who are watching this show, we are here for a reason. You are here for a reason. You are here to do good work. You are here because you have been called to the world of spirit. You have been called to be someone who's demonstrating truth in your life. If you weren't, you wouldn't be watching this show. So I know that you have a special talent for being, expressing, knowing, understanding the world of spirit, the world of life, truth, and love. And applying these laws is what we're here to do. Apply them to your life. Pull out these laws at every juncture in your day and lean on them. Listen for the intuition and trust it and go forward, even if humanly it doesn't make sense, because so many times it doesn't make sense humanly. It doesn't. God knows bigger and better than we could ever imagine. And if we trust our little pea brains, you know, the little human mind that is going to think up all these little solutions to things, we want to trust that? I don't. I'd much rather trust the all-knowing, all-seeing, all-acting. It's like, you can't lose with that. I was talking with my postman the other day, my mailman. I have a very dear friend in my sort of inner circle who's been missing on the planet. And it's about as challenging as a challenge I could face. And though I don't want to sort of get into personal stuff because that's not what this is about, I will say that in one day when I was feeling particularly distraught about the situation, I just reached out and listened for guidance and just said, okay, what do I need to know in this moment? And I saw the mailman a little bit down the street and I thought, oh, well, maybe, you know, he walks around in the neighborhood. Maybe he'll see this person. And I'll let him know that he's missing and, you know, hopefully he'll see him. And I showed him his picture on my phone. I actually mentioned who it was. He went, oh, I know him. I used to deliver mail to him. I know him. And I showed him a picture and he took a picture on his phone of the picture on my phone. So he'd have a picture of him. And he said, you know, I just started praying several years ago. And since I've learned to pray, I don't worry anymore. When I start to worry, I just give it to God and God figures it out. And every time God comes up with a solution that's better than I could have ever imagined. And I thought, you know, it was just so sweet and so dear and so simple. And he had tears in his eyes and I had tears in my eyes. And we shook hands because I was in the car and he was outside the car. And I think if we'd been standing, we probably would have given each other a hug. It was so dear and it was so innocent and heartfelt. It was exactly what my little puppy heart needed to just feel comforted and feel like everything's okay. Everything's going to be okay. And God's got him. You know, he's in God's care. And I can trust that. Getting back to trust. So I've been learning a lot about trust recently. A lot. And really practicing shutting out the suggestions of fear. And I know by no means am I the only one struggling. I know all of us struggle with things. There's the fear of death in whatever form it comes. You know, a family member just had what seemed to be a heart attack and had a very quick healing actually, which was wonderful. But there's the fear of, oh my gosh, what's happening there? And there's the fear of, the loss of a friendship, or the fear of the loss of a loved one, or the fear of the loss of a bank account, or the fear of the loss of peace, or whatever it is that you're facing. Those fears that try to creep in and take a foothold in our thinking, that's where the battle is. And like we said in the video a couple times ago, the size of the error, the size of the suggestion is not the point. That's what would distract us from actually getting down to the work of it. The work of it is recognizing those subtle suggestions that are coming in and stopping them at the door. Being disciplined in our thought to catch the suggestions before they become our thinking and we start making it personal and making it about us, because it's not. We are aligned with God. We are aligned with life, truth, and love. We are aligned with our true north and our true identity. There was, the other day when I used the example of 1 times 3 is 3 and 1 times 3 million is 3 million, and no matter where you put the decimal point, the problem, if you make a mistake, it looks bigger or smaller. Like if you say 1 times 3 is 4 million, looks like a really big problem, but the problem is still the same. The issue is still the same. You know what I didn't realize when I was saying that? 1 times any number is that number. So 1 is the identity principle, in the mathematical identity principle. It is, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's about our own identity. It's so I was thinking about sort of the parallel there, that when we identify ourselves correctly and we are clear about who we are and who our source is, the suggestions have no power. It's only when we get distracted from that knowing, that understanding of our true nature, that the suggestions seem to have some kind of power and some kind of foothold in our thought. So that is where we will end tonight. We will end with that. Trust your true identity. Trust that you have what you need to combat the little suggestions that try to come in. Put those thoughts out. Work. Let's all work, and I'm putting myself right in there with you guys because I am really in need of this right now. So I'm really saying this for me. You can come along for the ride. I need to really be alert in my thinking and catch the little suggestions that are coming in that would try to make me afraid and try to make me fear that God's not in control somehow, or think that God's not in control, because God is always in control. The planets are always aligned. I was challenged on using that as an example by Murky, so thanks Murky for that. But it's, you know what I mean. It's just illustrating the point that there are examples of alignment all around us, and we can trust that alignment is in reality what is in effect. And if something seems out of alignment, it's just that we need to get back on our true north, and then things are aligned again. Okay, thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, subscribe, share. A couple of these videos have been really spinning out and going viral, and I love it. I love seeing how many people are watching around the world. So let's help with that. Let's share. Share this with somebody who you think might like it, and we can grow the group that is partaking in these ideas and lift the planet just a little bit by the work that we're all doing. So thank you guys for doing the work. Love you. Bye.